Hi, Dove here, and today we have a new episode in the art review series, and today we'll be checking out the work of KV3 or Tiny Little Fox. Cute name. So I'm gonna be referencing the previous art review I did of Kwan Min Huang. I did like her pencil sort of vibe. She does a lot of like pencil sketches. And now for KV3, there's an eagle sort of icon there. They do these. I'm not sure if this is like a fan art or if it's their own sort of original artwork, but I'm gonna be focusing more on their pencil sketches just because it's what got my attention. Although I think it's transferable because if you look at these sorts of artworks, now this one's more of a chainsaw man, I think, fan art. Because of their animal studies or sketches, I think it does transfer to these kinds of artworks. It is cool. So there's that, but I think I'm going to be focusing more on the pencil sketches. It's been a while since I've followed this person, this artist, and they do a lot of the traditional, or they do their sketches, their pencil sketches anyway, traditionally, and it has a very natural look to it. I do like the hatching. Compared to Kwan Min Huang, again, the last art review I did, the way KV3 likes to hatch their lines, there's always like a slight curve to their hatch lines, right? So it's very similar in that when they draw or sketch, and when you see the hatching, it does go along with the form. The only difference, I think, noticeable difference is for KV3, if you look at the hatch lines, there is always like a slight curve to them. It's not like one straight line or a bunch of short straight lines. It's very curvy, right? And maybe it's because of the fur, I'm not sure, but yeah, it's just something you'll notice. And yeah, they do like more like dogs or felines when it comes to these sorts of studies. I mean, yeah, the digital art is cool too, but yeah, I think if you look at the contrast, obviously the studies are more realistic, real life types of studies, but the artwork is really strongly stylized, right? I know I said I was going to be focusing more on the pencil sketches, but if you look at the way it's rendered, I don't see a lot of texture brushes being used. I think it's mostly just a basic round brush even. Although I do think you benefit from doing a lot of these sorts of realistic studies, right? Studying the expressions, because, you know, these skills are transferable. Even if you end up stylizing everything. Like, you see this with a lot of like anime sorts of artists. For example, what's his Pablo Ochida, I think his name is. He does a lot of realistic studies, but when he does his anime artwork, I mean, you do see a bit of that realism, but the point is, you can do studies that are more realistic, and then when it comes to your own original work, you can stylize it, right? And I do like how they're trying to break down the face too. And not just the face, but the facial expressions of animals. And they're very similar to humans, obviously. I mean, kind of. And you can add that animalistic look, I guess, eventually to your more humanoid sort of characters. Right? Well, maybe if they're kind of human. I mean, obviously, again, if you look at the original artwork, I think, of like these types, it's kind of animalistic, so it makes sense that they would do these sorts of studies. And I love the expression of the cats here. I feel like a good portion of them are memes, or maybe they're from videos, I'm not sure, but again, look at the way it's hatched. Look at the hatch lines. There's always that slight curve to them. It looks really cool, right? So here we have some deer. I think the deer is the odd one out. The reindeer, I think. But again, look at those hatch lines. It looks so fluid too. Again, I recommend checking out the work of Eliza as well. Eliza Ivanova something. I will link her work too in the description below, along with Kwan Min Huang. Right? See? So whenever they do this sort of skull, it's like a skull of this dog, cat sort of creature thingy. So they're basically combining a bunch of different animals whenever they're doing this kind of concept here. I think it might be like an original sort of concept. It looks pretty cool though, right? I do see some RGB shift effect. Here we have a bird. So in this case, they did include the reference photo, right? I like it. Look at how the lines just seem to flow, right? And I think it helps if you try to sketch this way where you see through the lines. If you've ever done 3D modeling, there's usually a view where it's like a wireframe view where you can see the lines or the edges of all your objects behind, right? So you're not just seeing one flat thing. You're seeing like the frame of it, the wireframe. And I think it's nice to have that same approach here when you're sketching, to just sort of draw through the lines and the forms, because it just helps you understand it a little more instead of just seeing everything via 2D. This one looks so cool. And even the way they're breaking down the folds of the... Clearly this wolf is sort of growling, right? If you look at the top part of the nose, KV3 was able to break them down a bit, right? And obviously the transfers to whenever they do their expressions for their more original artwork, like this one, right? Look at the folds of the wrinkles in between the eyes of this big sort of dog wolf thing. Like if you do enough of these, like realistic studies from photos, from real life, eventually you're gonna get the vibe of how something can look sort of like angry, confused, maybe shocked or curious, right? And you'll just learn things. For example, for dogs, or cats too, you can tell their emotions via their ears as well, right? If it's down, if it's up, like it adds to the emotion of the either canine or feline. Look at this, pretty cool, right? Here we have it's kind of a puma, I think. Again, look at the hatch lines. It always has its slight curve. And it's these little things that make up your style. It's the choices, the little choices you make, and how they all add up eventually. And again, style is also about the subject matter you choose. For example, clearly KV3 has a bias towards cats or felines, or sometimes canines, so it does transfer eventually to their more stylized work, right? Even Kim Jung-gi, I think he likes drawing tigers too, right? And I like how the sketches look, because if you look at these tiger sketches, look at how the further you go away from the main spot, the less shading there is. I think I learned this from Steve Houston on how to make like a nice looking sketch. Basically, you want 10 or 20% of the sketch to be like rendered or more refined, and then everything else you sort of just leave blank. And that kind of proportion, that ratio, just makes your sketches look a little more cool. There's also another guy, I forgot his name. He has a I'm forgetting his name, but he does a lot of this traditional ballpoint / pencil sketches. He's a YouTuber too. Hopefully I can remember him, and I'll link his work too in the description below. Although he does more creatures, right, like insect type of creatures. So here we have more cats. Again with the dogs, look at the hatching. Oh, look at the variety of values there, right? Oh, and notice always the slight curved lines. It's never like a straight line. Again, practicing the facial expressions of these animals. Look at the ratio of how it's rendered, right? The mouth has the highest contrast. The further you go away, the more it sort of fades out. The less shading there is, the less hatching there is. So trying to study different positions, different views of one tiger, right? Seeing it from above. And this is something that I think we tend to struggle with as artists, is trying to draw something both from the left and right hand side. For example, if you look at the top two drawings, you're seeing the same tiger, but one is from the left and one is from the right. I think we're so used to drawing in one way or from one side that the moment we do the reverse, we tend to struggle a bit. I mean, we do this. For example, if you're doing digital artwork, you'll just flip the canvas, or you'll either flip vertical or flip horizontal, right? It does save time, but I think when we're trying to study, it does limit our understanding of structure, right? So it's good to be able to visualize things from two different sides. Look at the breakdown of the physique here, right? I like it. And it still mostly looks realistic. And then it transfers to something like this. Look at how vibrant, well, not vibrant, but look at how dynamic and expressive these sketches are of these. It's kind of like a dog wolf, maybe hyena. It just looks so wild. I do like the chainsaw man fan art we saw recently, or in the earlier part of this video. It really shows how if you do enough of these studies, obviously you can't just draw things blindly and just copy things one-to-one. You want to be able to break things down. And I do like the way they draw. For example, if you look at more of the torso, look at how they chunk out the muscles, the tendons. Even though it's very rough, you can take some of that and add it and use it for your own sort of designs, right? So it's not just the facial expressions, it's the action. You know, tigers, dogs fighting. Again, with a decent amount of this, I think they come from memes, like cat memes. So here we have a cat stretching, right? Look at that. It's so dynamic. More tiger stuff, right? And I think if you just focus on typically like one subject eventually, that's where you gain the most. Like you want to allow yourself to be sort of taken away by a particular subject. So, because that's where you can take or gain the most, right? If you're always sort of going back and forth between different things, not even back and forth, but you're always sort of led by different subjects, and you're not focusing on anything, like you won't be able to reap the benefits of, you know, a focused sort of a study. And just by looking at their media tab here, in terms of their pencil sketches, felines and canines would have to be the main thing. Their bodies, their facial expressions, and obviously alongside with that is their original like art, right? And the occasional deer. I'm not sure why. Right? Look at how the neck was broken down here. Look at how it's chunked out organically. Right? Now this one's a bit too rendered. Right? It's like a photorealistic sort of thing. If you zoom out, right? Here we have a snow leopard. Here we have a fox, right? Yeah. So here we have a cheetah. And they look so fun too. So that's it for this art review of KV3 or Tiny Little Fox. If you're planning to do studies, especially like pencil types of studies, I think kind of like Kwan Min Huang, the last artist I reviewed. I think you'll have fun doing that because you can just gain so much. Just check out the work of Tiny Little Fox or KV3 because, I mean, if you do it the way they do it, I mean, look at the body of work here. I mean, eventually, it's almost impossible to not learn anything by doing these amount of or this amount of work. Again, Chainsaw Man, I think this is the gun guy, although he has cat ears or dog ears. Okay, the occasional horse or donkey or zebra, right? So if you're planning to do studies, I think you should check out the work of KV3 because, again, you'll gain so much and it's fun to do. And it does fill up your portfolio, your media tab, your body of work. And yeah. So that's it for this art review of KV3. Hopefully this helped in some way. I will link all of the relevant people or artists in the description below. And obviously I will link the work of or the profile of KV3 as well. So yeah, that's it. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.